Hello students, it's Nazia Begum here, your physics lecturer, welcoming you all in today's lecture. So today we will discuss limitations of the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, so first law of thermodynamics is a very simple law which is based on conservation of energy. That whatever heat energy we give, it is used in two parts, for doing work and for increasing the temperature. Okay, so the total energy is converted into work and increase in temperature. Okay, now the first law of thermodynamics has following limitation. The first one, it does not tell us about the direction of heat flow. We know that heat flows from a hot body to a colder body, but the first law will not be violated even if heat flows from a cold body to a hotter body. Okay. Second, it puts no restriction on the types of energy conservation that can occur. For example, imagine a book lying on a table and then suddenly jumping to a certain height. According to the first law, it is possible because the table may cool down spontaneously, converting its internal energy into equivalent amount of the mechanical energy of the book. Okay, that means here what it is telling, that when the book is lying on the table, so table will give all its energy to book and the book will start jumping. Okay, but it is not true. Okay, according to this law, what it is saying, the acquired mechanical energy could make the book move up to a certain height, converting the mechanical energy into the potential energy. Not only this, the book may further rise up by reducing its own internal energy. But we know that this thing never happen. If we don't apply any external force, the book by itself cannot move. Okay, so this law is not applicable in such kind of cases. According to this law, without any external force, work can be there, but it is not true. Third, it gives no idea about, first, the conditions under which heat can be converted into work, and second, the extent up to which such a change can be made continuously. Okay, so these are the three limitations of first law of thermodynamics. Now let's discuss thermodynamic state variables and equation of state. As explained earlier, thermodynamic state variables, also called macroscopic variables, they are pressure, volume and temperature, are the parameters that describe the equilibrium state of a system. For example, the equilibrium state of a gas is completely specified by the value of its volume, pressure, temperature, mass and composition. Okay? But the thermodynamic system is not always in equilibrium state. For example, a gas expanding freely in vacuum is not in equilibrium state because during expansion, the pressure and mass of the gas may not be uniform throughout. Are you understanding this? If the gas is expanding, that means the molecules, the particles of the gases, they are going away from each other. So obviously the pressure will decrease and the mass will also decrease. Second, a mixture of gases undergoing an explosive chemical reaction can be an equilibrium state because its temperature and pressure are not uniform throughout the system. Okay. So these are some conditions in which we can say that gases are not always in equilibrium. The equation of state is the relation between the different state variables specifying a system. For example, the equation of state of an ideal gas is represented as PV equals to nRT. In chemistry also you have studied it so many times. Okay, this is one ideal gas equation, PV equals to nRT, where N is number of moles, P is pressure, V is volume, T is temperature and R is a constant. Okay, by this formula PV equals to nRT, we can easily find out that what is the relation between any two variable. Okay, P, V and T are three basic thermodynamic variables. So by this equation PV equals to nRT, we can identify what is the relation between any two variable. For example, let me explain you. See, we have the equation PV equals to nRT. Now suppose for any system, number of mole is constant, temperature is constant, R itself is a constant. So all the value on the right hand side become constant. So we will have PV equals to a constant. Okay, or we can write P equals to constant upon V. Okay, and if we remove constant from here, so we can write P is inversely proportional to V. Okay, so here we have one relation between P and V, that P is inversely proportional to V. I hope you all have understood this. If PV equals to nRT, N, R and T all are constant. Okay, so we can write it as PV equals to constant. Okay, and when we further solve it, so we will get P is inversely proportional to V. This is one relation. Okay, this can also be written as V is inversely proportional to P. And now suppose in this equation PV equals to nRT. Now suppose V is constant. Okay, if V is constant and R, these are also constant, so we will have P equals to constant into T, or we can say P is directly proportional to T. So if the volume of the system remains constant, so the pressure is directly proportional to temperature, or we can say temperature is directly proportional to pressure. Similarly, from the same equation, PV equals to nRT. Now suppose pressure is constant, nR itself is constant, so that time V will be directly proportional to T. Is it clear? So these are some relations between the thermodynamics variable which we can easily derive with this equation PV equals to nRT. Okay, this is called ideal gas equation. Now let's move to classification of thermodynamic variables. So thermodynamic variables are of two types. First is extensive variable and second is intensive variable. And sorry student for this blur image. Okay, I don't know that what is happening there, but this image is a little blurred. So what is extensive variables? They are those which depend on the mass of the system. Okay, any variable like internal energy. Internal energy means kinetic and potential energy, and the formula of kinetic energy is half mv square. So m means mass is there, and the formula for potential energy is mgh, again mass is there. Okay, so internal energy depends on mass, volume depends on mass. Okay, so these are the extensive variables. Intensive variables are those which do not depend on the mass of the system, like temperature, pressure, okay, composition. Here density means composition. So they all are intensive variables. Okay, so variable which depends on mass are called extensive. Variables which does not depend on mass are called intensive. In order to know whether a variable is extensive or intensive, we consider a system in equilibrium state and then imagine that it has been divided into two equal parts. The variable which remain unchanged are intensive, okay, which remain unchanged, they are intensive, and the variable whose value get halved in each part of the system are extensive. Okay, are you understanding this? We are having one system in equilibrium. If we divide it in two equal parts, so we are dividing it according to mass only. So those variable which also get divided in two part, that means they depend on mass, so they are extensive. And those variable which does not change, that means they do not depend on mass, so that means they are intensive variables. Okay, for example, here in this equation, del q equals to del u plus p del v. This is equation from the first law of thermodynamic. In this equation, all state variables on both sides are extensive because they all depend on mass. Okay, so they all are extensive. Now what is thermodynamic processes? Now we are going to start a very important part of this chapter. Now thermodynamic processes, different type of process we will discuss now. The process in which there are changes in the state of a thermodynamic system is called a thermodynamic process. In other words, it is the process in which thermodynamic variables of the system change with time. Okay, so all the thermodynamic system will all the thermodynamic variables of the system will change with time. So that kind of process is called thermodynamic process. Basically 4 types of processes are there: isothermal process, adiabatic process, isobaric process and isochoric process. Okay, so first of all let's discuss isothermal process. Isothermal, thermal word means it is related to temperature. The process in which the process in which pressure and volume of the system changes. Okay, pressure and volume changes but the temperature remains constant throughout is called an isothermal process. Okay, so in isothermal process the temperature is fixed. Here is one example of isothermal process. So work done during isothermal change we are going to discuss now. Okay, in isothermal process what work is done. So to understand isothermal process, you have to imagine a cylinder. Okay, here in figure 13.8 one cylinder is there. Suppose inside the cylinder n moles of an ideal gas is there. We are taking ideal gas here, okay, which does not exist practically, but we are assuming that ideal gas is there in a large metallic cylinder of cross-sectional area A, provided with a frictionless and movable piston as shown in figure. Okay. Work done during isothermal expansion of the gas when the piston moves up by a small distance. Okay. So here what will happen? In isothermal process, pressure and volume will change but temperature will not change. So here you can see the initial pressure is PV and volume is P1 and volume is V1. Temperature is T. Okay. When we move the piston in upward direction, so there will be expansion of gas, because when we move piston in upward direction the volume of the cylinder will increase. So there will be more space for the gas to move, so the gas will expand. In that case what happened? The volume is increasing and the pressure is decreasing. Okay, pressure and volume, they both are inversely proportional to each other. We have discussed that by PV equals to nRT, that P and V, they are inversely proportional to each other. So what happened here? As the volume will increase, the pressure will decrease. So in this process there will be change in volume as well as in pressure. So here the final pressure becomes P2 and final volume becomes V2. But you can see temperature in both the state, in this one initial state and final state, the the temperature remains T. It is not changing. Okay, so it is one isothermal change in which temperature is not changing, pressure and volume is changing. Now when we have to find out the amount of work done in this process, so we know that dW equals to F into dx. In place of F we can put pressure into area PA, and A dx is equals to dV. So dW equals to PdV. We have already derived this so many times. This is the small amount of work done. If we want to find out the total work done, okay, so to find out the total work done, we will integrate the small work from volume V1 to V2. Why we are integrating it from V1 to V2? Because here in this cylinder we are moving the piston in upward direction. So what is changing here? Volume is changing here. So suppose initially the volume was V1 and then finally the volume becomes V1. So how much change is there in volume from V1 to V2? Okay. So how much work is done to change the volume from V1 to V2? That only we have to find out. That's why we are integrating PdV from V1 to V2. Okay. Now from the ideal gas equation we know that PV equals to nRT. That means P equals to, here PV equals to nRT. So P equals to nRT upon V. We are putting this value of P here. Okay. By putting that we will get this equation. W equals to integration V1 to V2 nRT upon V into dV. Now N, R and T, all these are constant. N is number of mole of gas, that is constant. R itself is a constant, and temperature T, it is isothermal process, so temperature T is constant. So all the constant term will come out, and we will integrate 1 upon V with respect to dV. Okay. And if you remember the formula of integration, so when we integrate 1 upon V, we will get log V. Okay, the formula of integration is that integrating 1 upon x with respect to dx is equals to log base E x. From this 1 upon V dV equals to what we will get? Log base E V. Okay, and we are integrating it from V1 to V2. So here we are having the upper and lower limit. Okay, now when we solve these limits, so what happened? Now understand it clearly. We are having log V, sorry, we are integrating it from V1 to V2. Okay, then we put upper limit minus lower limit, so we will get log E V2 minus log E V1. Okay, this we will get after opening this bracket by upper limit minus lower limit formula. So we will get log E V2 minus log E V1. So another formula we are having that log A minus log B equals to log A upon B. So log V2 minus log V1 will be equals to log V2 upon V1. Okay. So here you can see log V2 upon V1 we have. Now again one more relation we have, log base E is equals to 2 point, here point will be there after 2.302 log base 10. This is the relation between log base E and log base 10. Log base E is equals to 2.3026 log 10. Okay. So here in place of log base E we will put 2.3026 log base 10. Okay, and after rearranging we will get W equals to 2.3026 nRT log 10 V2 upon V1. So this is the total work done in an isothermal process. Now we know that P1 V1 equals to P2 V2. Okay, so from there V2 upon V1 equals to P1 upon P2. So in place of V2 upon V1 here, we can also put P1 upon P2. So this work in isothermal process can be achieved in terms of volume as well as in terms of pressure. So today we have derived the formula of work done in isothermal process. Tomorrow we will discuss the necessary condition for the isothermal process to take place, as well as we will study about some other thermodynamic processes. Okay. So this is it for today's lecture. See you in next lecture. Till then, goodbye. Take care. Do some productive work, and the most important thing, be healthy, be safe.